In this topic, we're going to cover the subprocess module. You can think of a running program as just a process. So, we have actually been executing the Python interpreter process every time that we have been running our scripts. One process can start another process. However, these subprocesses, or child processes, as they are called, run independently of their parents. Because they are independent, subprocesses will execute concurrently with the parent. So that basically means just because we have launched a new child process doesn't necessarily mean that our current parent process will have to hang or wait for input or output or for that child process to finish execution. The Python subprocess module provides an interface to create and work with additional processes. We can use subprocess to spawn new processes, connect to standard pipes, and obtain process error codes. The subprocess module is cross-platform and can be used to work with processes on Linux, Windows, and Mac OS. But in this lesson, and for this course in general, we will be focusing on Windows examples. So let's get started with a calc version of Hello World using the subprocess module. We don't have to install the subprocess module with pip since it's already part of the standard Python library. So we can just import it, import subprocess, and we can save this subprocess demo.py and execute it. And if we want to execute a command without needing to interact with it, we can use the call method. So we could say subprocess.call calc, and we can execute this. And here we can see that calc has been spawned. But a more secure way to interface with a subprocess is to pass the commands as a list, where the first element is the command to call, and the next elements are the arguments for that call. So we could have instead said calc as a list, and we don't have any arguments here, but we can see that this execution is equivalent, and we have calc pop up again. And if shell equals true is passed as an argument, the command string is interpreted as a raw shell command. That means we are invoking a shell before executing our subprocess. You should always be careful using subprocess, especially combined with shell equals true, because if user-controlled input is passed, we could open ourselves up to code execution. We can say shell equals true. And again, for executing calc, this behavior is equivalent. And the check underscore call method works just like call, except the exit code is checked. And if there was an error, an exception will be raised. So we can see this with an example. And let's stop using calc for now. Let's instead say out equals subprocess.call. We can say cmd. We might want to pass to cmd-c and ASD, which is not a command. We can execute this. We can see the same error. ASD is not recognized as a command. And now if we change this to check call, and here we can see, as expected, an exception has been raised because ASD is not a command which can be run. However, if we change this to calc, for example, we can see that check underscore call and call in this case is equivalent in the sense of we get a calc pop up again. And when using the call method, the standard input and output is bound to the parent. So that means the calling program can't capture the output of the command which was executed. This isn't a big deal when just calling calc, but if we want to interact with the command to see the result, we can make use of check underscore output. So we might instead want to say out equals subprocess dot check output. cmd my, and we can print out this output. And we can see that we now have access to this output as a Python variable. The output was and the underlying process creation and management of these functions is handled by the popen class on Windows. Under the hood, this makes use of the create process function, and popen gives us the ability to perform fine-grained configuration as to how our process should be executed. So for example, we have the ability to control the startup info object and associated creation flags, which can be useful for more complicated process execution requirements, which we will see later in this course as part of one of our projects. Subprocess is a really useful module when we want to call or interface with another application or process as part of our Python scripts. When using Subprocess, make sure you're careful with how you make the call, because you don't want to enable an attacker to gain code execution by passing input directly to a dangerous function. But that's it for now, and in the next lesson, we are going to cover threading.